business last week.
Yeah.
Alright.
Do we start with first? I'm not sure.
We start with the grants first.
Yeah.
We'll call the meeting to order, and I'll give you guys a couple minutes to go through the information that you've got.
Well, I was looking at their proposal. I thought that they were saying that for $10,000 we would get, but now it's a $20,000 price.
That's a possibility. How Chad explained it today was that with the tweaking the PER, and we may have to put up that amount, but at this point, we're looking at 5 to 10.
5 to 10 with a possibility of 20.
Right.
That's 20 total that everybody put in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some of that money will come from DNRC, some of it will come from the local,
I still think it's a good thing to go ahead with.
What's the price of a hydrant?
about 4,000.
So you could get 4 of them.
Four of them.
Yeah.
After you
It's not
take
gonna,
it with them.
Depends on, you know, the hydrant itself and who you buy it from. I've looked at some that are ranging
That's
anywhere
not
from
inst-
3 to 45.
is that installed? Or is that just the hydrant?
That's just a hydrant.
Okay.
Well, it says here in section 4, eligibility, 2, it says, for a project that was submitted for approval to the 66th legislature for funding from the Treasurer State Endowment Program, but did not receive legislative approval for funding from the program. The amount of a grant for the project under this act may not exceed the amount of funding recommended to the project described in the Treasurer State Endowment Program.
That was grants pre-applied for.
So,
Chad figures we have a good chance of getting this.
but if we haven't applied for it,
And if we haven't applied for it. So we're starting fresh. So that one does not apply to us, does it? That's
Well,
pre-applied.
eligibility,
That's
submission.
What section are you looking at?
It's the first
The
section.
section that we're looking at for the grant funds is section 3 for local,
Section 3,
right, section,
subsection what?
right. Delivering the local assistance grant program.
We're looking
for
at section
infrastructure
3?
projects, yes. And it's,
So your point,
yeah, and we're not looking at the school grants, because that doesn't
Yeah,
apply
right.
to us. We're looking at, all the grants,
But Tim's-
distributed
what
among
was
local
Tim's point?
governments for infrastructure.
what
Well, I
was
was
Tim's
trying
point?
to, because it had eligibility on the front of this. That's where I was trying to.
Are you concerned that we're not eligible for these funds, Tim?
Yes, I am.
And what leads you to believe that?
Well, as I went through it here, now one of the things is in section 4, you know, for the project submitted, we haven't proposed anything or submitted anything, but I do believe there's a list in here that gives them, you know, if there's a separate part to this, you know, section 14, appropriation for Treasurer State Endowment Program grants, is that what we're looking at, is an endowment program grant?
We're looking at infrastructure.
because they're gonna give all these people, you know, the city of Chinook for water and,
Well, there's certain funds appropriated
For
for
each
counties,
county.
each county.
Goes by county.
Yes,
And each project can only be a certain amount.
yes,
I think 750,000, is that correct?
yeah, that's what they were saying.
And there was some concern that little Fromberg doesn't meet the criteria because we're not affected by natural resource issues. Is that the consensus
Yes,
of the?
that was
Okay,
one of,
sorry.
that was one of the questions,
So
but
with that in mind, why would Red Lodge City Storm Water Project be on this list of pre-approved? And also, and
Yeah, those were-
I'm referring to section 14, number 31. I'm also
stormwater.
And I'm also going to bring up in section 19 that there's funds slated for another project in Carbon County, which is the Golden Ditch Company. And that's, I believe it's a ditch like what we have in town here between Belfry and Bridger.
right,
So if those people are getting funds out of this program, I don't see why Fromberg couldn't.
Why we wouldn't qualify.
Correct, unless somebody can explain that to me.
If I'm
Raise
allowed
your
to.
hand. Sure. Go ahead.
I can clarify 19 for you pretty simply. That, section 19 where it says appropriations for natural resource grants, that is from a local infrastructure that was established prior with DNRC. If you read the second line, this is to the DNRC and not conservation.
Right,
That's $5 million that's separate. So,
4.97.
right, so I guess, to kind of go back to what Shirley was saying, we're dealing with specifically section 3, and what Tim is referencing really has nothing to do with the grant money that you're applying for, but I would like to speak to the fact of why I don't think Fromberg would qualify if that's allowed.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so, as Mayor Miller said, that there's $10.7 million to be distributed to local governments. That is total, so that's across the state. So even though every county has a $1.5 million cap on what they're allowed to do, there's only 10.75 for local governments. Now, the school side of it has an additional 10.7, which is totally separate. So the school can apply for something
Above and
separate.
beyond.
Correct, so that's totally separate. So I just wanted to clarify that, number one. The eligibility of the natural resources, I would be concerned about that, but that's up to the grant writer, and that's kind of a moot point, and that's up to the grant writer and what they
Right.
decide. My concern actually falls in a different issue. When you're looking at how the grant is structured, this is a reimbursement grant. This is not a grant money like what you receive for the sewer and water. So you have to upfront that money, and it says that right in, let me find it, I just had my finger on it, I apologize. So it also says, section 6, disbursement of funds. The Department of Commerce shall disperse the grant funds on a reimbursement basis as the grant recipients incur eligible expenses. So it is a reimbursement grant, it's not an upfront grant like what we've received in the past. So that's concern number one.
that's not true.
Chad says it's not a reimbursement grant.
It is
It's
not,
not a matching funds grant.
no,
He didn't say anything about reimbursement.
no, it's not reimbursement, a grant, and it's when we don't have to have matching funds. Those
I know
are
we
made
don't
very
have
clear.
matching funds, but the reimbursement is totally different.
Right, but
issue.
the grant that we're applying for is not a reimbursement grant.
Okay? And what makes you think that?
Simply because of the meeting that I had with Chad and Craig Benson, who is the grant writer that we are looking to work with, explained that to me, and he is saying that we need to look at section 3 is the only thing that we're concerned with at this point. And it is just for the infrastructure improvement disbursement, and that is not a reimbursement.
Yeah, the way I took it
Right.
is as it came, like we got the slotted amount, and then as the amount became due, then it was taken from that account.
Yes, it
Is what I
is,
was taking.
coming
Well,
from the
that's
grant.
Funding for
That's what he
projects.
said when he was here.
Yeah, that's what I'm taking out of this as well.
May I get something, if you have any questions, Chad said he would be at home and we can call him. If we had anything that we need to clarify.
Let's call him, because that needs to be clarified.
All right. Let me see if I can find him.
Funding for projects and only ones there is sufficient funds available from the amount that is deposited, transferred from the account of the assistance. There you go.
Right, once we have the grant funding secured, then we will go ahead with the other plans that we need to be concerned with, which is advertising for contractors,
Mhm.
grant engineers and things
Right.
like that. Then, anytime they have a drawdown on that money, then the engineer or the grant writer will give us a draw, whatever it is, number one, number two, or whatever.
Yeah.
That money will then be coming out of those grant funds, which we send to the grant funding, we send the request to the grant funding. They deposit the money in the bank, and then we write the check to cover those, cover
Is
those
that kind of how we
funds.
did it with the sewer?
Yes, yes.
Sewer, okay.
The only difference with the sewer project is that we did take out a $1.7+ million loan with rural development in order to be able to complete the project at the lagoons,
Okay. Okay.
which we will be paying for a long time.
Yeah.
Audrey, what section was that again?
That was
Section 3.
section,
No.
No,
assistant grant.
6, the disbursement.
condition of, grant.
That's what I wanted to ask him about, is section 6.
Additionally, you might wanna ask him about, section 5 where it says that the money has to be already pre-allocated as well. Section 5, part A, the grant recipient shall document that other funds required for completion of the project are firmly committed.
Wouldn't that just mean that these funds can only go to the project spoken for?
No, that would mean that there's gotta be some sort of buy-in from the community, and I don't know what that would, I don't know if that's, it, again, that's gonna be up to interpretation, but the grant recipient shall document that other funds required for completion are firmly committed. So that says to me that they're not gonna completely 100% fund the project.
They would if we don't, if there isn't any
This
funds
is Chad here,
required.
Fearless Engineering. I get to my phone right now, so please leave me a message and I'll shoot a call as soon as possible. Thank you.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey Chad, I hate to bother you this evening, but there was a question that came up at the city council meeting. We were concerned about section 6 of HB 652 that states the funds would be a reimbursement basis. And I just wanted to clarify that. If you could call me back at this number, I would appreciate it. ASAP if possible, thanks. Bye. Okay. So that's a deal breaker if it is, right? Because we don't have the funds
Right.
to be upfront for that type of a program or project. Even though
Well,
they
we'll
are
clarify
reimbursed.
that, but that's not how it was presented.
Right, I agree.
That's true.
Other than that, is there anything else in here that anybody objects to?
We're clarifying that, I'm 100%. behind.
So are we in agreement that we could pass this if that comes in? Like
We get
what
clarification.
we hope
Everybody's on board though, because I guess this is, when I looked at their type of grant applying for, the stuff at Chad, we're giving him approval for, like say, 5 to 20,000.
What this says is that the proposed budget for professional service, the money will come from the source of that 10,000 will come from TCP, the TSEP grant.
TSEP grant.
The source of the $5,000 will come from the
Budget.
RRLGL grant. And
That's-
the town of
if we get those.
Fromberg, the source of the $5,000 is the town of Fromberg for a total of 20,000. If we get the grant funding,
Then this will pay
Right.
for a lot of
yes, and what we'll be
Yeah.
responsible for is this.
Right.
that. So the only thing that we're responsible
that's-
for,
that's what he
according to
said.
the
Yes, if
letter,
you look at the source
And
of
that's
the
just section
$5,000,
two.
yes.
Section 2, yeah.
Yeah.
then that wouldn't be so bad.
It wouldn't even be bad. I think it's worth the risk even if we put out 10,000.
Even,
Because it is a safety measure for the town as far as water lines and replacing our fire hydrants and having them done right.
we'll still have to have this done
Yes,
to apply next year anyway.
right.
Right, that
It's
was
not-
another point
It's
I
not
was
a
gonna bring up.
situation of,
If we do it now,
What
we
if
put it
it's-
on a list.
they say, what if we don't get it? Well, then we apply again. What if we do get it? It's an extremely good benefit.
Right, but if we do not, if they do not accept the application, we do not get the funds this time around, then we are put on a list for the next
Yeah,
priority
Step
of,
up.
yeah,
Kind of like the list that they
And I
have here
realize,
in
you
the
know,
bill.
yeah. And I have never written a grant myself, have you?
Not to that amount, but
Okay, but I do know that, there are a lot of requirements going,
It takes a
toward
long
the,
time to,
Yes,
a
it
lot of
does.
work to write a grant.
it takes a lot of work and it's time consuming and there are a lot of requirements
Yeah,
that
but are
go
they
along
talking
with
about the
that.
funds that we
But,
deposit or they deposit?
I feel that, I have great confidence in the grant writer and
Like we did
the
with
engineering
Fremont.
firm at this point. And I feel like, I really do feel that it is worth the money that we have to put out just to apply for the grant and possibly get it. And I think that we stand a very good chance of getting that grant money.
Well, we have to start someplace, or else we're just gonna stumble around.
That's true.
Well, if we get our name on a list, that'll help.
I really do feel that we are in a very good place and have a really, really good chance
Oh,
of
here
getting
we
this
go.
grant money.
This is Dave. This is Dave. What happened? This is Dave. Oh, hi Chad. Let me see if I can get you on speakerphone. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. One issue came up at the meeting where we're all sitting here around the table. Is the disbursement. And there was a spot in section 6 that said that this was a reimbursement basis. Does that mean that the city has to come up with the funds for the project and then we're reimbursed?
No, technically, all the grants and loans are reimbursement basis. You could pay it and then ask for reimbursement, or just like we're doing on the wastewater project, you can submit draw with the invoices, and then they do the reimbursement but you have to pay the invoices within 3 days of getting the money.
Okay.
They all use the term reimbursement, but you do not have to pay them before submitting the draw.
Okay, very good. And there was one other question, what was it?
Section 5.
Section 5? I'm gonna give you to Shirley.
Okay,
Hi, Chad.
hi Shirley.
Sorry to bother you. We are looking at the authorization and things like that, and I believe that Audrey had a question. I'm trying to find it here. About the, where is it? Okay. Which one?
Section 4 and Section 5,
Five.
we were concerned about the
Right,
grant.
grant recipients shall document that other funds required for completion of the project are firmly committed.
Right,
Does that
and
mean,
that's the resolution that you have to pass, saying that this is our funding plan and we're committed to providing the matching funds if we get the grant.
Which is the, total of the 20,000, right?
Yes, where you're gonna tell them, our plan is 10,000 TSEP, 5,000 DNRC, 5,000 of town funds.
Right,
And we're committed to providing the match.
okay.
Okay, I
Anything
think that was
else?
it.
that was it?
All right, Chad, thank you very much, and again, we apologize for interrupting your evening.
Oh no, it's not a problem. I'm just hanging out here with the boy. If you guys have any questions, give me a call.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Any other discussion?
Not me.
I would make a motion that we go ahead with the project then.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to, go ahead with the, grant application. And, all in favor?
Aye.
Now, do we have to pass that
We have to
resolution?
pass a resolution, yes. Would you like me to read it?
And just as long as
Okay. So the resolution to submit TSEP infrastructure planning grant application. Whereas the town of Fromberg is applying to the Montana Department of Commerce for financial assistance from the Treasure State Endowment Program, also known as TSEP, to complete an update to the town's water system preliminary engineering report 2010. Whereas the town of Fromberg agrees to comply with all state laws and regulations and the requirements described in the TSEP administrative guidelines and application for infrastructure planning grants specifically, and those that will be described in the TSEP project administration manual generally. Whereas the town of Fromberg commits to provide the amount of matching funds as proposed in the TSEP application, which is the 20,000. Whereas the town of Fromberg commits to provide any funding from other grant sources listed in the application budget if not awarded by those grant sources. And that Shirley Miller, Mayor, is authorized to submit this application to the Montana Department of Commerce on behalf of the town of Fromberg to act on its behalf and to provide such additional information as may be required.
What resolution number would this be?
513.
513.
Ah, okay.
So, need a motion to also, let's amend the motion to accept the grant application funding and the resolution 5 number
I'll
13.
make a motion that we accept or authorize resolution 513.
Yeah, and I'll second that as well.
Okay, and we have a motion and a second to accept the proposal for the TSEP funding and resolution number 513. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
That meeting is adjourned and starting this one.
Yes. So we'll adjourn this meeting on the TSEP grant, and we will go on to At this time, 8:02.
Shirley, do we need to have a motion to adjourn it?
We did.
Oh, yes, we do. Sorry about that.
We have to adjourn the first meeting?
Yes, yes.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
Okay. Motion is second to adjourn the meeting of 7:30. TSEP proposal. All in favor? Yeah.
Aye.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned. Sorry about that, guys. We've got about 6,000 things on my mind. Okay, so then we will open the meeting at 8:02 to address the proposal of the kids' court